Hey guys, and welcome to the Fade Out podcast, where we discuss films and still don't have an intro. So today we're going to be talking about a Romanian film called Graduation, directed by Christian Mungiu. We definitely pronounced that wrong.
I don't know.
We literally
Romanian.
went on YouTube and looked on the YouTube channel
How to
name
pronounce.
translations. So I apologise to him if we mispronounced that. So the story of the film is about a father whose daughter is going to graduate soon, doing her final exams, and she has a scholarship to Cambridge in the UK. And to go to Cambridge, she just needs to get certain grades. You know, that's how a lot of scholarships work. And basically, she gets attacked. Her arm gets broke. She's in a bit of emotional trauma, and all the stuff the father's been fighting for has kind of, you know, it's starting to wobble the foundations, and finds himself having to go against maybe his own principles to help her get away.
Yeah.
That's the story. So, Jasmin, what did you think of this film?
I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I liked almost every part of it. I love these kind of minimal but kind of life stories that don't just have like a big journey going on. It's just kind of about somebody's intense part of their life for a couple weeks, possibly not even that much. And I really enjoyed the characters in it. I think it was really grounded and kind of, you really felt for the main character, and you understand that even though he went against, you know, rules and regulations, he did it with a nice heart and with a nice thought behind it. And I really enjoyed how you almost felt like you didn't notice the cinematography, but it was very beautiful, and it was all so fluid that you didn't even notice. We talked about this once during the film, that we didn't notice that they had done the whole shot in one.
The whole scene in one shot.
The whole scene in one shot. Which I always enjoy, because you're so engaged in what's happening emotionally and for these characters that you're not looking at if they cut, and you didn't notice that it was all in one shot, but it just felt right and it didn't feel forced in the way that you usually find one shots to be. At least if they're over one scene, you often feel like there's a wobbly part in the middle when the shot composition isn't as nice.
Definitely.
And it just feels like you're just following because you don't want to cut to something else. But this time, even though you didn't notice it, but it always felt like it was a shot that was planned for when they were moving and things like that. And I liked it more than I thought I was going to. I thought it was going to be a kind of mediocre, interesting foreign movie, but I really enjoyed it. I think it's going to stay with me for quite a while. What did you think?
Well, I thought I really liked it. So I thought it was great. It's a real slow burn movie. Like, it takes a while for you to even realize that you like it. Like, I was kind of halfway through before I was like, oh, I see. I get, not that it's hard to understand, but that you really like get the sense of the sort of slope this guy slips down. You know, like, it's just
and it gets worse as it goes along, and you think it's gonna be all fine, but it just gets even more intenser by the end, and you're just like, oh, lots of things are happening.
Yeah, you know,
intertwining.
This one little thing he just wants to help her with her exam, just this tiny thing, and it leads to this much wider web of corruption and people doing favours for favours, and oh, I owe you something, blah blah blah, and he's just got caught up in this web with almost, you know, by almost just a touch, he's got attached to this massive complication of things and people, you know. And I think it's a really good showing of this kind of, I appreciate his motivation that he wanted his daughter to get away, because he's had seemingly not a great life here, and he's kind of willing to sacrifice it for his daughter, you know, because he thinks life in Romania is so bad, and you can
kind of lifeless, like there's nothing to kind of gain
in
Romania.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to gain. You should just move out and go away. She becomes kind of almost not a character to him at certain points. She's just like something he has to push through. He just has to have this happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that something really bad's just happened to her. He just needs to get this done. That's like his only purpose. And I wonder what will like.
I wonder because you don't. The daughter is not a big character.
No, she's not at all.
In terms of like, she doesn't say much.
No.
He is obviously the main character of this.
He's in every single scene.
And I wonder what she felt like. Because I get the kind of sense that she just does this. In the end, you get the sense that she has only just not put up with exams. She obviously was good enough to have good grades in exams. But she's you can kind of tell that she's only doing it to make him happy at the end. And they end it on like an open note, which doesn't leave you with she hated him for forcing her to do all this and forcing her to leave and go to the UK. It's kind of more human than that. It's not so bad and evil. She obviously wanted possibly to go away and have a nice time, and I understand why he feels this need for her to go away now, even now that she got assaulted, and obviously she associates these places.
And I mean, you can see the world he wants her to get away through, you know.
Yeah.
Just by trying to do one little thing, you know, this whole web of corruption amongst everyone is revealed. You can see why he just desperately wants to push her away. And I feel like even if he succeeded, even if, you know, there was no film, nothing happened, what would he have done after she left? I don't know. Like, he has no purpose apart from her. And it gives the film a nice, solid drive, even though it's very slow paced. Like, it really takes its time with everything. Like, it's 2 hours and everything just slowly moves, which is very rewarding when it starts to, like, all happen. And things falling apart in slow motion is always more exciting than stuff falling apart really quickly, you know? Because it's just, like, you can see the trail he's going on, and there's nothing that can be done about it at this point. You know he's just screwed. And I think it's really interesting that the daughter is a pretty minor character. Yeah. She's only in like 3 or 4 scenes with like talking properly. But it makes sense because she's not really an element to his life. She's just almost functional. She almost has this role that she's supposed to fulfill for him. And that's really it. It doesn't even matter. He doesn't care, really, about how she feels. He just needs to get her away. And so on one hand, it's for her best interest. And you can definitely relate to that goal. And you can see why he wants to do this. But at the same time, I think it's just something to give him a bit of purpose. You know, there's this repetition a few times in the film when he's talking to some prosecutors. And they're like, will you... He's talking to some prosecutors and they're like, will we find you here in his office, in his work? He's like, where else would I be, you know? He has really nowhere else to go. And you get this whole web of characters who are just in the same situation as him, you know? Like, no one's really got bad intentions, necessarily. Everyone's pretty good and pretty cooperative. But it's just... It's so broken, and the machine's so broken, and so much has happened that there's nothing to be done.
No, I like that they didn't show exclusive scenes with her, because obviously I felt like I didn't get to know her, almost in the way that you feel like he doesn't know her.
Exactly.
And obviously he works both ways. It's both, you choose not to have her as much because he's focusing on him, and there's no scenes individually with her doing things with her boyfriend or whatever, or in school. But you also, I think that it also comes with, you don't want to show too much of how she actually likes her life, and how she takes things and how she feels about him, because it all is from his perspective. Yeah,
it really is. Like, there's literally no moment he's not in it.
Like, there's a scene where after the assault, she's crying in bed, and we don't know that unless when he wakes up in the middle of the night and hears it from outside her door, and it just shows that they've really confined it to what he is experiencing and how he experienced things around her and around the whole thing. And I like how quiet it is at times, and how natural the sound is. I don't think there is any music.
There's some music, but it's being played. There's no non-diegetic music. I get it confused with around it is. There's nothing.
I really like that because it feels so grounded in a way that you can feel everything. You can feel a door slam, them walking through a room, car going. It's...
I mean, there's pretty much no cuts in any scene. There's
No,
cuts
there's-
between scenes when they're going to places. But in a scene, it's like the two people there and that's it. And there's a distance to the way it's shot, you know, like you never get too close to these people, and you never, especially the main character, Romeo, I think his name is.
Yeah, Romeo.
Often you'll see him have a conversation with someone, and you will see the back of his head, you won't see his face.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's almost not emotionally present. He's just functioning for these other people. He's doing these things for other people. He's not really... He kind of holds in all his emotions, so it makes sense for the camera to not really get close to him, because he's distant himself. And on how it's shot, it's similar to a movie we saw a little while ago, The Unknown Girl by the Dardenne brothers, which was not a great film, but I'm sure many people have already talked about that. But that also had everything in one take, but it has a different effect to that. It feels very kind of... Everything feels so musky and like lived in, and a bit like the main color is like this kind of brownish, orangey kind of colors. Like there's not much. I mean, the frames are really lovely frequently, but there's no like beauty in the world. It's very rough, and
very
there's
rough and natural in a way that it's just how life looks.
Yeah.
In a way, and there's this really lovely scene that that we first don't really understand what's happening. So Romeo's driving, and then he just stops by this big forest or big bushes, and then he just walks out his car. And usually, when he's out on his own in his car, he's usually going to the place where his daughter got assaulted, or he's
going to the police,
meet
going to
somebody,
someone. Yeah.
And there he just stops in the middle of the road, goes into the woods, and we were like, what, is he looking for something? You don't really know what the interest in this, because he has a light flashlight light flash and then he just goes into the woods, and then he just starts crying. And I love that scene because it just doesn't say anything, but it also says so much about his character in terms of like how he's obviously, he doesn't show much emotions. He does show some emotions towards his daughter sometimes when he says he loves her and things like that. But most of the time, this whole experience obviously has been high tension for him. He wants everything to go well, and he just breaks out crying.
It's almost like he has to hide himself from himself to cry. Like it's almost like it's such an embarrassment to let out the emotion.
There's so many elements to it. There's the daughter incident. Obviously, very tumbling to have that happening, and then there's having her move away. You don't see so much about him feeling bad about it, but you can definitely feel that it kind of dawns on him that even though he's fighting so much for her to get away and be able to go, he never have time to think of that she's actually not going to be here anymore. And his wife or the mum taps in on that, and the grandmother also taps in on that not wanting her to go away because they're thinking of themselves.
Yeah, they want to be with her. They want to be with their family.
You know, with it. And I think at that moment he realises also that he's been fighting so much for this, but he's going to probably want to have her stay.
To have her stay.
Yeah, to have her stay.
Yeah.
And to be able to care for her because he's very protective of her. But I think he grows. By the end, he is accepting that she is her own person.
To some extent, he does let go.
He needs, but I think he does understand that he can't be so overprotective, and he needs to let her decide herself.
But I still don't think it's that definitive. I still think it's kind of like, what does he do next? You know, like at the end, you're like, does he really have much to go on for? You know, whether or not she leaves. I don't think the ending is. It's quite a vague ending. Obviously, we're not going to spoil exactly what happens, but it doesn't really make it 100% clear where it goes. Which is kind of nice because the film is pretty miserable for most of it, especially the second half. So it's kind of felt nice to have a little bit of vague levity, potentially.
I want to know what your thoughts are about... well, maybe not if you want to spoil it.
I'll just talk about it. We'll talk about it.
About Marius, the boyfriend.
Yeah, so...
There's this part where... the dad sees a security camera of where she got assaulted.
Where his daughter got assaulted.
When his daughter got assaulted.
Just by it.
and then he sees what he thinks is his daughter's boyfriend coming in. You see him just at the edge of the frame.
Yeah, it's not even that clear.
It's not even that. We don't even get to see.
No, and in the moment when he first prints that off, you don't actually. At least, like, I didn't actually understand what that was.
I understood that he saw something.
Yeah, sure, but I didn't know what.
Use that
yeah.
for. And then he confronts her boyfriend. And we never get to know if it actually was him in the picture that he saw, or if it was just his mind going into. It must be you. You didn't do it, like trying to guilt somebody because they never. I guess I don't want to say that, but
and
he never felt like he never got to blame anyone.
Yeah, and you never get a conclusion to that storyline about her getting assaulted. You never find out who that is. You don't even really get.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if it actually was.
Yeah,
just
that's
him
interesting.
Being a douche and not doing anything when he saw it.
And they talk about in that scene. So in that scene, the boyfriend says like, "There's no one to blame," you know. And I think you're right that's where that frustration with him comes from. That he can't find. I'm not super convinced it was the boyfriend there. I'm not really 100%
Well, I feel like
convinced.
that's what it was about. The scene was about him trying to find somebody to blame.
Yeah, trying to just vent something, you know. Because. You know, this whole chain of events just happened by just some guy attacking some girl for no particular reason, you know.
Yeah.
It's so menial almost. It's just like a little thing happened. Obviously, it's a big thing for her, but it's something that just happened. There's no reason. There's no conclusion. It's not like, oh, someone did it to get back at him, you know.
Yeah, and there's no clear evil. It's just...
No, it just happened, you know.
Which
And they have to deal with that.
Which I really like, that there was never any conclusion to the story. And I don't feel like there's any conclusion to any of the stories.
No,
really.
there's really not.
It's all very open.
But not in a bad way.
No, in a nice way. I really enjoy... Some movies you feel a bit frustrated with when they leave it open, because you feel like, what's the point? What have I learned if I don't get the conclusion, in a way? But with this, you feel like you've already experienced something that you don't need to necessarily have the conclusion or find the culprit to be able to enjoy it and watch it.
And you know how this world works, you know. They're probably never going to find this guy.
No.
They're probably, you know, the same things that have happened will keep happening, you know. It seems like this system is immovable, you know. What do you do? There's not a good solution to the world's problems, and especially the country's problems. Like, politicians can only do so much, you know. And there's nothing to really to do. You just have to kind of make do with what you can and try and help people. Like it's pretty. You get that sense of people, especially the mum and Romeo, the main character, and his wife, not the mum of the daughter, blah, 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 of kind of a life wasted, and like they have so much regret for what they maybe haven't done, and that's just like, this is, you know, having a child's like the only other thing to do, you know. Have them get something, and at least you can feel like it was for something. But other than that, their lives both seem pretty much like, you know. Yeah.
And the thing that I really liked about, I think I already said slightly about it, but there's this part where the dad he basically is guilting, or not guilting, but like putting loads of pressure on his daughter.
So much.
Like saying, we didn't do anything in our lives, but we got you, and you are on the verge of being able to do something, and so you need to do it now for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, cool, no pressure. I'll just try my best. And then in the end, she has a fight with him where she says like, I'm not gonna do the exam or something. And he's like, are you blackmailing me? And it was just like, even though I sympathize with him so much, he isn't a perfect man.
Oh, he's an incredibly flawed man, but an understandable one. You get how he got there, and you get a sense of...
He obviously feels like he didn't do enough in his life. Yeah. And he needs her to do it, but to validate himself for all the mistakes he's done. Or not done, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are your final thoughts?
Really enjoyable movie. Will probably stay for me longer than most movies, because he just said so much, I felt, with so little things resolving.
Mm-hmm.
And my favourite Romanian movie.
I think it's the only Romanian movie you've seen.
Well,
I think it's the only one I've seen, to be
it's
honest.
my
I
favourite,
haven't
you
got
know.
a lot.
Can't say anything else.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's really great. One of the best films that's come out this year, by far. I mean, it's really exceptional. You know, you got to stick with it. You might kind of have a tendency at the beginning, if you're into more mainstream films, to like kind of slip away and let it, you know,
Pass you by.
yeah. But persevere with it, and you'll really get something out of it. I think it's a really, really great film.
I think so too.
That's good. Okay, and so for today's movie, we're going to have a little mini review of the Jules Dassin. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, but it's an in-joke, so just don't worry. Film Rififi. It's like the legendary heist movie to start all heist movies.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, the heist scene is super influential. So let's talk about this film from 1955.
Okay. My first thoughts.
Uh-huh.
It's a sexist fucking movie.
It's really sexist.
It's terrible. Like, you didn't even notice it in the beginning. You were like, it's just an old movie. Let's just follow with it. And then there's just, out of nowhere, he just goes to this club, and then he just meets this girl, and you're like, okay. And then he just brings her home, and you get the sense that you start noticing that he's been out of jail, and she obviously was with him before.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just demands her to take off all her clothes,
Uh-huh.
and then he just whips her.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
And
I understand that he's a thug, but like, it's just so
He's supposed to be
blatantly-
sympathetic to some degree, the main character.
And he just does this, and you're like, okay.
And there's loads of like just standard sexism, you know, like slapping the bar, you know, come on, girl, get out of here. This is man's talk, you know. It's really bad, especially the first like 40, 50 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of the movie is so bad.
Before the heist happens.
Yeah, before the heist happened, it's just over and over again. It's like
You don't have to. Like, I felt that so many times. I'm like, this scene could just be without all the,
I know.
like, women. I just no.
It was pretty distracting. Like, you know, you can to some extent kind of wave away a few lines in a movie when you're like, okay, it was a different time. But I mean, 1955 wasn't that long ago. It's not like it was 1920, you know, like they should have known better. But I think the core heist scene is really
Really good.
yeah, really great.
Intense.
It's totally no music, no
Yeah.
dialogue. It's
yeah, they
just
didn't
the
say
sound of them
anything.
doing this crime slowly and procedurally in such a kind of artful way. You almost like, if I was a police officer and I caught them doing this, I'd be like, you know what? You went for too much effort. Keep the jewels.
Keep
It's
the-
fine. You know, you did so much, and it's a real tense, slow tapping away scene. You know, it's a really great scene in a not so great movie. You know,
Yeah.
I think the movie's best asset is how it's visually directed, but the script is pretty poor.
Boring
Yeah,
at times.
yeah.
And just long. Like, if it was just a heist and what happens
Yeah.
after the heist, I'd be fine.
Yeah, it kind of goes on a little bit. There's a really good scene at the end, quite an expressionistic scene for the time, when the main character's kind of bleeding out and driving a car, trying to get this kid back home. That's a pretty good scene. But it's basically two good scenes in like a pretty mediocre film overall, with a lot of dated stuff.
Yeah. We never explained what the movie was about.
It's about some people trying to steal some jewels. And then other things happen. Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's not much more complicated than that.
It's just a heist. They just want to...
Yeah, and
steal some
then
jewels.
there's some... And the whole reason the second half... Like, in the second half, you know, things fall apart, things start going wrong. The whole reason it happens is really dumb. It's just one character being super stupid.
Yeah.
And so it feels really contrived because
It feels like, why would
the
they-
heist scene is so precise. You can really see how perfectly thought out this heist
and
was.
the tension. And the
Yeah, but I mean, like, in terms of
Yeah.
from the character's perspective, it's so well executed as a crime. It's so perfect that it doesn't even make sense for this stupid thing to happen. It doesn't make sense for the second half to fall apart because they kind of did commit, the old Hitchcockian idea of the perfect crime. It was a fantastic crime. They did a great job. And it just falls apart for some stupid contrived reason.
And the person that fucks it all up, he's the guy that specialises in getting into vaults and what's it called?
Safes.
And you'd imagine him to be the most meticulous and like smart person there, and he just like fucks up because he was a little bit greedy and then he wanted to show off a diamond for a girl.
It's
no thinking of it was just
it's just shit. It's just contrived so they can have more film, basically. I mean, admittedly, the main character is like a famous jewel thief who just got out of prison and then he steals some jewels right by his house again. So maybe that's a little bit suspicious. But yeah, I mean, so overall I'd say like it's kind of worth watching for the heist scene, but it's not like a classic, It doesn't really hold up other than that scene.
No.
But I'd say I would still recommend it if you like crime movies just for that bit, because it is...
That is really good.
It's like 30, 40 minutes long. It's really long.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So tense, so great. It's just worth it for that. And
you really feel for them at that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's so meticulous. And you're always like, oh, what are they doing? You're like, oh, that's really clever. I didn't think to do that. There's so many little parts. But yeah, that was our movie. Thank you for listening. Just before we finish off this episode, obviously you notice we're uploading this on a Friday instead of Monday. We have put some announcements out, but I know not everyone will have seen them. That's fine. So just to announce it here, every episode from now on will be every other Friday as opposed to every other Monday, just to change based on our schedule. And so 2 weeks from now, you'll get a new episode.
Yes.
And it will be consistent 2 weeks from there on out. Obviously, it's been a bit quicker now because we changed and didn't want to make it 2 weeks plus a couple days for the episode, rather than just a bit less. So thanks for sticking with us through that, and we'll keep the schedule for the significant future until our circumstances change. So expect to stay at that for the next couple of months. Bye.
And bye.
Fade Out Podcast is edited by Jasmin and Karlsson, and the music is Deeper Love by the Agrarians. Thank you for listening.